Hello and welcome to Voices of a Vic podcast with me, Ben Aiton, and Joe Thomas. We're back to discuss Watford's 4-1 defeat away to Norwich City yesterday. Me and Joe weren't the lucky ones to sit in that away end yesterday. I say lucky was probably, we were very lucky, weren't we, Joe? Mike and Cam travelled down to watch it. So I feel sorry for the boys that sat in that away end yesterday. It was pretty poor from Watford. But we'll dissect the performance in a little bit. But first, Joe, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks, mate. I'm all good. It's a bit of a weird feeling, isn't it? It's the first weekend of the season. It's quite strange that we're near the end of September, and it's the first weekend where we can say we're probably really, really annoyed by Watford FC performance since the start of the season. So we've done well to get this far, if I'm being quite honest with you.
No, definitely, I agree. It's 6 games in, and if that's our first really poor performance, then I will take that. The only concern for me is how do we react from this, really? Obviously, we went to Sheffield United away. That was a poor performance. Lucky to come away with just a 1-0 defeat. Then it was a 1-1 home draw to Coventry City, which wasn't pretty. Found a way of getting back into the game, and we scored in the second half with Tom Deli-Bashiru. And then yesterday it was again, Joe. It's a lack of concentration at the start of the game, which has cost the Hornets once again. But we'll talk about the team news just briefly because there was 4 changes to the side that drew 1-1 at home to Coventry City. Out went Ryan Porteous, Larouci, Kiembe and Baah. Kiembe's got a bit of a knock that he came back from the international break, and Watford are just nursing that. So he was taken out of the firing line. And then in came James Morris, Ken Sema, Rocco Vata for his first league start for the Hornets. And then it was Daniel Jebbison up front. So that was the starting lineup was Daniel Bachmann in goal, Morris, Sirius, Pollock, the wing backs being Andrews and Sema, Tom Deli-Bashiru and Sissoko with the midfield too. Just in front of him was Georgie Chatfordasky, Rocco Vata, and then up front on his own was Daniel Jebbison. What did you make of the starting lineup, Joe? Kalevsa's tried to freshen things up a little bit with 4 changes. But what was your thoughts when you saw that lineup?
I've got to be honest, I was quite happy. I thought the changes up top, Vata playing with Chadvikatsi in that number 10 role, and Jebbison obviously getting his first start, which we've all been wanting. Yeah, I mean, it was all positive. Question marks over the Larouci change for Sema. I actually didn't think Ken did too bad playing yesterday. There's been question marks over Larouci, hasn't there, with his defending. I think Clev's probably looked at areas in which Norwich could exploit us yesterday, and that was potentially one area. And just having Ken on that side being better defensively was what we needed. I don't think there's any question marks about what Yasser Larouci can do going forward, but defensively he's got a lot of work, I think, still to do, and that's probably just going to come with game time because obviously, as we know from loan moves that he's had at other clubs, he's not really had too much time, has he? So that will come, I think. And Morris, I wasn't too shocked with that one. Porteous, he looked a little bit shaky, didn't he, against Coventry last week? He looked very nervous. I think it's just a little bit unsettling. I think for him, he's probably got in the back of his mind, he's come through an international break where he's not got any minutes, which is the first time for him for a long time, I think, for Scotland. And obviously, he's not started the season for Watford, has he? So, I think, I think he'll integrate him back in slowly. I think he'll come back into the side and play a lot more as time goes on. I'm probably expecting to come in Tuesday, to be honest, and get 90 minutes there at Man City. I think I had no qualms about the starting 11. I thought the team did need freshening up, and I think he made the right changes in the right areas.
Yeah, when I saw the starting lineup, I put a tweet out, and I think everyone else was along the same lines. I was excited by the starting lineup, especially like having Jebbison through the middle, Chatfordasky and Rocco Vata, because we've all been wanting to see more of Rocco Vata. So it was good to see that he was given his chance. But it was just a little bit too a bit flat for me, Joe, with the attacking intent. It obviously didn't help that Watford went behind so early on in the game, but considering it was an exciting starting 11, we didn't really see that until we got that goal, and then the confidence in the team grew, and we was like, oh, okay, we're actually doing something here. But on paper, it looked more exciting than what it actually transferred to on the football pitch.
Yeah, I think it did to begin with. Yet again, we're the creators of our own downfall, really, aren't we? I mean, yet again, another game we're playing catch up in the first 5 minutes. Bachmann, fair enough, he made a good save just before the goal, but he's got to be doing better with that. And we're then, like you say, we just couldn't really get going. Every time the ball kept trying to go forward, we just we were getting dispossessed. We were loose passing, lack of concentration, and it's really frustrating because that's the second game in a row now where I feel that the midfield hasn't helped those front three. I think they could be doing better. Tom Delibashira, I think that's 2 games now where I've kind of questioned his performances. Even in the times when we were going forward, once we'd scored the goal, there were times where he was a little bit careless with keeping the ball, like usually. And I wouldn't have a bad word to say. He's so good at keeping the ball at his feet, looking for a forward pass. But yesterday there was just, again, something wrong with his concentration and performance overall in midfield. But I don't know. We've seen stuff with Duame being included in the matchday squads now. I'm wondering whether now's sort of a time to. I fully expect obviously Loser's been back in the squad, hasn't he, training again? But I wonder whether things will get fully freshened up on Tuesday night. And I think it's needed because I think he needs a rest, to be honest with you. I mean, playing back-to-back games, and he's come off injured as well. Let's not forget, I think in both League Cup games, he did get pulled off injured, didn't he? Yeah. So, maybe there's a little niggle there and he's just not quite right. But yeah, I do agree. We were a bit flat. Once we got the goal, we looked to settle and we looked to grow in confidence. Chadvikatsi going forward as always. He's looking to, exploit the back line of any defence he's getting anywhere near. And he was very unlucky yesterday with. He was a little bit greedy, I thought, a couple of times after we'd equalised. There was a few times where he could have passed and he decided to shoot. And obviously, we'll probably talk about it more in a short while. But, just that little bit of luck, sometimes we're just missing, aren't we? And from that corner, things could have just been so different.
It could have done from 2 corners, wasn't there? There's Tom Delibashiru's shot that he should have got his body over the ball and hit the target, and then obviously the Jebbison chance, which we'll talk about in a bit. But again, that another disastrous start from the Hornets, wasn't it? Falling behind, another goal conceded in the first 5 minutes of the game. In the last 4 league games against Derby, we conceded after 2 minutes. Sheffield United, 2 minutes. Coventry City, 4 minutes. And then Norwich, 3 minutes. It's poor, isn't it, Joe? And Tom Cleverley keeps mentioning it in the press conference, and we're working hard on it. We're going to address it. It's not going to happen. But we're seeing it 4 games running now. And up next, Manchester City Tuesday. So it's probably going to happen again then. But my point of view of it, Joe, is it's poor game management from Watford. And it's similar to how we just conceded just before half-time as well. I was watching a stream yesterday, and Derek Payne was mentioning how he thinks Watford should deal with the early pressure of the first couple of minutes because it's probably playing on their mind a little bit, and that's what's not helping the situation at the minute. But what you just do is, from the kickoff, you would just pin back the opposition in the opposition half, knock it out for like a throw-in or something, and just try and keep the ball up there as long as you can as possible. And that's not what we're seeing at the moment. And you need to be sensible and you need to be tactful with how you play. And we're not seeing that from this Watford side at the moment. Like the goal we conceded just before half time, we had a throw in just in front of the away dugout. Vata tried to do a quick turn and he lost possession. Then the ball over the top just split our defence, and it was 2-1 at half time. But what are you putting this down to for such a poor start to games?
I think you're right. I think, when we're so used to, and I'm used to this as well, is when we start games, we'll take centre, we'll lump it forward, and it'll either go out for a throw or it'll be in the corner of the opposition's half, and then obviously they're then having to come out and play out from the back. But for whatever reason, things are slightly different. I'd like to just see us maybe put a bit of pressure on Sunderland next week, because forget City. City's just a free knock around. If we get a draw and it goes to pens, great. If we get hammered, we get hammered. I don't really care, if I'm being honest with you. With the previous record we got against them, just get the game out of the way, get the boys home, no injuries. Yeah. That's a win for me. But obviously Sunderland next week, they're five wins, one defeat. That was at Plymouth. We're going to certainly need to. I actually genuinely believe, and this is no joke, that if it hits 5 minutes on the clock next week and it's 0-0, there'll be a big cheer from the Watford fans. As stupid as that sounds, I can just see it. And by no means am I calling for us to do that, because that would be embarrassing if we do. But yeah, I just think, we just need to keep possession as well. I think, there's nothing wrong with just getting the ball, passing it back to, if Bachmann's starting, just passing it back to the keeper and just keeping possession and just ensuring we don't lose the ball straight away. Because, as soon as that happens, we've seen, I can't understand it. And the thing is with that goal yesterday is they just backed off, and they just let him have a free shot at goal. And Bachmann could have done better. But the defence, I'm just questioning why they're backing off all the time. It frustrates me. Just go to the ball, like just put a foot in. But yeah, I do believe it will come. I do believe we will get better. I think, I don't know. I don't know whether I can't say as inexperienced people at the back. I wonder if Bonner coming in will change things slightly and it will just shore things up a little bit and just bring that calmness and experience that we're probably lacking at the moment. Because I think, Serialto has been fantastic. I can't really knock him too much. I gave him a bit of stick before the start of the season. He's been great. It doesn't, and it obviously the goal happened and then things changed. But the way that the central defence, or those three players that are playing at the back there, are changing so much is not helping things. Like he needs a three and to stick with that. Obviously, Serialto went off because Porteous came on. Pollock then moved again, and it was just moving things around. And I just don't think that's settling for the defence at all. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
No, I agree with you totally, and I think the inexperience at the back was maybe telling a lot yesterday. As much as Matty Pollock has been brilliant and outstanding for the start of the season, I think his inexperience maybe showed yesterday by how he was staying off the man and allowing the shot getting in from Doyle. He was standing off his man and he should have closed him down. And you could maybe say the same for James Morris. He got caught out a few times, and that's probably down to experience as well. But these guys have to play games to get the experience, and I'm just hoping that they learn off the back of this. But I don't know whether they was a bit naive to think that Doyle is a defender. If he hits it, it's either going to go in the back of the stands or it's going to go down Bachmann's throat, and then it'll be threat over. So a bit naive from Watford there. But going back to Daniel Bachmann, Joe, like we all know, I'm probably one of his bigger fans as a Watford fan, but he has to be to blame for that goal. He seemed like he was going down far too early, and then he was a bit surprised by how the shot kind of hung at that level, and he didn't really get much of a connection to it. He got two hands to it, but it just seemed to have just gone through his hands completely.
Yeah, it did. It was. It wasn't one of his finer moments. I know you're one of his biggest fans, and there are times in which I can say that he has kept us in games this season. He's made a couple of saves here and there, but on the whole, I have questioned his performances from the start of the season. I think starting at Millwall, I thought he was to blame for goals there, and then obviously coming to. There's nothing he could do about the Derby goal. He, made some good saves. I think a couple of good saves in that game. He made some good saves last week against Coventry. He was questionable at Sheffield United, but he did save the penalty and stuff and kept us in the game and kept the score at 1-0 for us to be in with a chance. So, while he's made mistakes, he has kept us in situations to be in with a chance of getting points in games. So it's a tough one. I put this in our chat yesterday. Obviously, he went down last week and people said it was good game management because we were obviously under the cosh and we were struggling against Coventry. I wonder whether there was a problem there and he actually genuinely was injured and he carried on and he thought that he was going to be okay. I'll be honest, I've not actually seen anything to say what happened yesterday. It was really weird on the telly. You saw it. The commentators were talking. We saw Bachmann going off and then the commentators were like, oh, now Bachmann's going off. And there was no real word from the commentators after that to say, oh, we've heard Bachmann went off due to this or whatever. It was very, very tight-lipped and there's been nothing really on social media. So goodness knows what's up with him. And in fairness, I think Jess has put in the comments there, not for the first time Bachmann's had a howler. He's faked an injury straight after. Could he have just done that just to make out like he was struggling just to, I don't know. It's a strange one. And like Jess has pointed out, it's not the first time, is it? So
yeah, it's not the first time, but we're not really in a position to say he's faked an injury. We're not on the inside of a club. Tom Cleverley's came out after the game and said that Siriota and Daniel Bachmann both suffered muscle injuries, and that's what James from Watford Ways popped up and said today as well. Hi James, hope you're well, mate. Must say thank you everyone for all the comments tonight, getting lots in as well, so keep those rolling in. Must say as well, everyone keep an eye out for all the fans chats that we're doing at the moment. James has been involved with them as well, along with Do Not Scratch Your Eyes and From Rookery End, and James come up with some quality content and questions. Love the one that he kind of threw at Scott Duxbury about his salary. Completely, Scott was not expecting that, and it was so good. To plaudits to James. I hope you're well, mate. But yeah, it's we can't really throw a rail saying he's faked an injury. We don't know. Tom's came out and ruled it out straight away by saying it was a muscular injury. So we have to believe what the head coach has said. But it was quite funny really, because Tom Cleverley said going into the game it was probably the best squad he could have picked from because everyone's coming back. The squad was really strong. Now with inside 10-15 minutes 2 players have gone off and the game plan just was thrown out the window, wasn't it, Joe? Go after 3 minutes, 2 players subbed off due to injury. You don't get much worse starts than that, do you?
No, I've got to say, I was completely shocked. I mean, Serialsa was unlucky, and then just to see Bachmann going off, it was just like, crikey, this really isn't going to be our day. In fairness, like while we said it was slow in attack, and we weren't creating much going forward to get the goal, and then just to kind of build on that going into, added on time in the first half. Obviously, we were, I don't know what your thoughts on this were, but I thought we were very lucky with the goal that was disallowed from Norwich. I thought that was onside myself. I don't know why the linesman put his flag up there. It was a bit of an odd one. He obviously had his doubts. The frustrating thing is as well, that blooming camera angle on the Sky Plus, they're terrible showing the replays because you can't actually see whether he is.
It was at an angle, wasn't it?
it was just stupid. I was like, "Why are you showing it from behind the goal? We want to see the run, and we actually want to see if he was genuine. If it could have been offside." But yeah, I thought we were lucky then. And then obviously, when the ball was played over the top, Porteous was desperately trying to put his arm up, wasn't he, to claim another offside? But that one wasn't to be. And I think over the two, if one wasn't and one was, I think they both levelled themselves out, if I'm being completely honest, because yeah, we could have been a lot worse. But yeah, it was unlucky, the 2 injuries. However, if they're only muscle injuries, let's hope that, they'll probably be out on Tuesday. I would have expected Bond to come in anyway. Potentially,
Yeah.
Serialta might have got a rest as well. So there's no real damage done there for me. And hopefully they can both get a bit of a rest and come back into training towards the end of the week, and they're both back in the squad and it's not too serious. So, yeah, while it was unlucky yesterday, hopefully it'll be a positive going into next week.
Yeah, with these 2 injuries now, our squad has got really stretched all of a sudden. So I'm hoping that we go to Man City and we play the kids, and that's not what many people will want to hear. A lot of people have spent out on tickets and trains and to go up to Man City, but realistically, it's it's a tough ask straight away when you get drawn out against Manchester City. And with our priority being the league this season, we're not going to win the Carabao Cup. Let's focus on that and just play the kids, because we can't afford to pick up any more injuries. Serialta's been a star at the back. Bachmann's okay with his errors this season. He's still made some decent saves, and I'd rather him in goal over Jonathan Bond, and we can't afford to keep Bond in goal for the rest of the season. Talking about Bond, actually, Joe, what did you make of him when he came on? He tried a Cruyff turn within the first couple of seconds, and I thought, fucking don't do that there. He got away with it, but I thought, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was nervous, I'm not going to lie. It was one of those where you just like, oh, goodness me, how's this going to go? But in fairness to him, he didn't really have too much to do. There was a few shots that were down his throat in the first half, so they were easy saves. There was the header not long after he came on that went wide. He had that comfortably covered. Obviously, he was beaten with a goal that was obviously given offside. Actually, that was poor keeping, I might add. Actually, while we got away with that being offside, had that been a goal,
yes,
I would have said that was poor. I would have said that was poor goalkeeping. It would have been another soft goal and another frustrating goal to give away from that sort of situation. And then, yeah, I don't think there was really much he could have done about the finish at the end of the first half. And then it's just, yeah, the goals I don't think he could have done much about, could he? I mean, the third one was a really good finish, that was poor defending, but you can't really say that he put a foot wrong. But obviously he's come on and we've conceded 3 goals, so it doesn't look good on him, does it? So
yeah. I don't think he was helped out by the people in front of him yesterday. They didn't really protect him too much.
No.
So yeah, not much blame can be given to Jonathan Bond. It's just don't do Cruyff turns in the 6-yard box when you've just came on, because he was lucky there. He nearly didn't get away with that. But Watford, they reacted quite well after from going behind. Well, I say reacted quite well. It took them about 20 minutes to actually grow into the game, because it was really poor. The possession was really low as well from Watford, and we couldn't get anywhere near the Norwich half or penalty box. But 24 minutes on the clock, Watford found their way back into the game. Ken Sema kept the ball alive after Rocco Vata strike hit the crossbar. Lovely strike from Rocco Vata as well. And he's just unpredictable, isn't he, Joe, Rocco Vata? You could see that he kind of like dropped his shoulders. The defender thought he was going to go one way. Vata went the other way, got his shot away, hit the bar. Ken Sema kept the ball alive, and Ken Sema does what he does best, about 10 step overs, crossed it into a box, and there was Ryan Andrews to finish nicely with his left foot to get Watford back into a game. 1-1, game on. Good reaction there, Joe, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And like you say, Vata did really well with the ball. The turn and to get the shot away was really unlucky. The fact that we got that little bit of luck, and Ken was there to keep the ball in and put the ball back across. Obviously, we know Ken's good in those positions. He's got many assists from positions like that. So I'm not shocked at all. It was a good little finish in the end from Andrews' first time. I was actually quite surprised he managed to keep it down, and
left foot as well.
Yeah, it's not the first time. If you think at Millwall, he tested the keeper early on, I think, and hit the outside of the post at Millwall with his left foot, and he also hit the left post with a left foot shot at Sheffield United as well. So he seems to be working on being able to use both feet, which I quite like. I'm liking that side of him because it's showing his versatility, and I think he's going to need that because I think there'll be. I've seen a couple of comments. I think maybe a comment earlier on where someone was saying they thought that he wasn't very good yesterday. I've heard a few people coming out of games where they've said that they don't think he's that great. So I've pointed out in previous podcasts that maybe Ebersele might get a chance, and with him being multi-footed now and he's using his left foot as much as his right foot, could keep him in the side. It would. I actually would be interested to see if Tom has potentially mentioned about him playing left back and having Ebersele on the right and Andrews on the left, rather than having the option of Larouci and Sema, just having, because obviously, like I say, he's using his left foot an awful lot and a lot more than he was last season.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, going back to the goal in general. Yeah, I was really happy with the goal, and obviously, like you say, from then on, as the commentators said, it was just really surprising that we just looked really comfortable from then on, and it was a shock that we were completely in control then from that moment, I thought.
You make an interesting point with Ryan Andrews, and a lot of people have actually started to question his performances for Watford. Like, he popped up well and got a good goal yesterday. Interesting facts for everyone now. Ryan Andrews has now scored more goals than his dad, Wayne Andrews, for Watford. Wayne Andrews scored 4 goals for Watford and Ryan scored 5. So he now has the bragging rights in the Andrews household. But yeah, I've not been massively impressed with Ryan Andrews of late. I think he's good going forward. His final ball could be worked on. His shooting's much better. But defensively, you could probably say the same with Larouci, can't you? Going forward, they're much better. But defensively, they've got their flaws. And as part of the wing back, you have to get back. And I think that's where Ryan Andrews and Larouci are both struggling. And you could probably see that in 2 or 3 of the goals from Norwich yesterday. It was all down Ryan Andrews' side. The gap between Ryan Andrews and the right centre back was massive. I've heard so many people describe it different ways. The Grand Canyon, I've heard double decker buses. Like, the gap was massive. Ryan Andrews was like in the Norwich half, and there was no one down that right hand side. And I think he needs to work on that. Maybe we were chasing the game, so Tom's told them to kind of bomb on a little bit more, but that cost us a match, really. So I'm the same as you, Joe. I'd like to see Festi Ebersele to be given a go at right back. I think he's probably going to be the better defender as well. I think he's more of a rounded wing back where he can do the defensive work. Seen a few clips of him at Derby, and he seemed all right defensively, but he's also got that extra bit of pace, and I think he's quicker than Ryan Andrews, and I think he's got a better final ball as well. And I don't really see Ryan Andrews beating a man, where we saw Ebersele do that against Coventry last week. He took his man on and then got to the byline and dragged the ball back, and unfortunately Sissoko hit it into a rookery. But I don't see that about Ryan Andrews yet, where he can take on his man. But overall, I want to see my wing backs to do more defensively, and that's what's costing Watford at the moment. Did you want to add anything else to Ryan Andrews' debate?
No, I think you're spot on. I think it's frustrating because I think with any player in that position, as Tom said, it's a very demanding position. And having the options that he's got, he's pleased, because obviously he does need options, and he does need to be able to have players that he can bring on and rotate and change things up, because obviously to play that role for 90 minutes is tough. At the same time, we've said many times, and I think I've said it about 3 or 4 times now, is that we know with Ngakia, he's good defensively, but he's rubbish going forward, and Andrews is the opposite. And I think the same being said with perhaps the left side. Larouci's good going forward, but Ken is good at times going forward, but Ken is better on the whole defensively. as opposed to going forward. And I think Larouchi's good going forward, bad defensively. So you've got qualities between 4 players, but it doesn't mould into one player. So we're always going to be like, oh, well, this person's not doing this, but this person's doing it. So it's just, we've just got to just face facts. I think we're just going to have partial qualities between some of the players that we've got, and it's just not going to mould into just one perfect player, is it? So
no, it's a shame. If only we could mould them. But the Hornets came close to getting their noses in front 6 minutes after that goal. Chapadassi with a corner. I thought he scored directly from the corner. I thought this was in. Somehow kept out. Goal line technology showed the ball didn't cross the line. I think Doyle kept it from crossing that line. Fell to Daniel Jebbison, and he popped it wide. He didn't pop it wide. He put it quite wide, didn't he, Joe? He wasn't on his toes enough, maybe. Wasn't expecting it to fall to him. Maybe it fell to him too quickly. But you got to be on your toes a little bit more, don't you, Joe? Is there any blame to Jebbison with that chance? Seeing lots of people saying Rivich would have scored that. You won't know until you're in that situation, really. But what was your thoughts on that miss?
I think that I don't want to be too harsh on him. I do think it is a bad miss. Let's be honest, it is a bad miss, and I do think you should have done better. At the same time, I don't think he was expecting the ball to come to him the way it did. And also, I think he didn't have his bearings right when he went to shoot. I think he thought he was further in towards the middle of the goal. I think he didn't quite know his positioning, if I'm being completely honest. That's what I got from the shot. I don't think it was a poor miss. I think he thought he was further over and more central to the goal than what he was. And I think because of the ball coming out to him the way he did, I think he just snapped at it, and it looked poor. But I've just seen that comment coming from Jess. It's I just, I put, as soon as he missed it, I put in our chat, I was like, that's not going to help his cause with the fans at all. And I'm still going to give him a chance. It's one moment. I mean, he, as I said before, he's not had many minutes in a Watford shirt, so I can't judge him. I know he played yesterday and he's got his start, but again, after 15 games, if he's still doing that, I'll give him some criticism. But after a first start, I'm not going to put any blame there. I thought other times he looked good and he looked strong and he looked to bully defenders, and I like that. We've got a forward that wants to kind of look to drive forward and create things and wants to do well. So while he's still doing that, and we're still off, we're one start in, still give the guy a chance.
Yeah, it's far too early to judge Jebbison and think that he's not good enough. It's too early in his Watford career. He's only played about 90 minutes over the last 2 games, so let's give him a chance. I think it was all down to maybe him not adjusting his body quick enough to that chance, and unfortunately it didn't go in. But I also think that we didn't really create enough chances for Jebbison yesterday to really get into the game. He was quite isolated up there. He didn't really have much help near him. When he was pressing, he didn't really have Chak or Vata going with him. And there was just a big gap at times. And let's just give the boy a chance. But it's easy to say Rivich could have scored. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Rivich did score today, which makes matters worse. Mark Schofield's just said. But if you've seen that goal, he's literally scored from 2 yards with no goalkeeper in the net. It was a well worked goal from Bromby. But Rivich is off the mark over in Denmark. But conceding just before half time, Joe. We talked about game management, but that was poor. Lovely ball over the top though by McLean. But one ruled off just 10 minutes prior to that, but it was the same finish, really, wasn't it, Joe? Bond didn't really learn from it. Smart finish in the back of the net from Signs, and for Hornets going 2-1 at half time, and it just changes the whole complexion of the game, the team talk, the tactics. It just, if only we could have held on for another 2 minutes or so, and we could have came out completely different second half.
It wasn't even that, was it? It was like 20 seconds. It was literally 20 seconds before. Yeah, it was. That's the frustrating thing. I think it was like 23 seconds before the end of that added on time, and it just, like you say, it's poor game management. That's one thing. If I can wish for going into next week's game, is that we don't concede early, and we just didn't. If we do concede, obviously I hope we don't, but I hope it's in times where you just expect the guys to be switched on a little bit. Start of the game, end of the first half, start of the second half, end of the second half. If we concede in midway through the first half or midway through the second half or whatever due to good moves, then fine, so be it. But as long as it's not in those times where you expect the players to, to be most switched on and be, composed. And I just, I really hope that whoever it is that's starting in goal next week for Watford as well, just talks a little bit to the defence, because I feel like the defence just needs that little. Well, if it is Bond and Bachmann's not back, if Ogbonna does start, then I hope Ogbonna does a bit of talking and just doesn't. Those guys don't. I don't want them panicking early on and us being in the same situation again, because I don't. If we do it again next week, it's going to get a little bit silly, I think, and I think people are going to just be like, "Well, what the hell's this?"
Yeah,
might be a bit of match fixing going on. Who's got what to concede early every 5 minutes, every first 5 minutes of every game?
I'd like to know what the record is for how many times a team has conceded within the first 5 minutes consecutively, because I think we're probably well on the way to maybe claiming that trophy. But one thing I've noticed, and other Watford fans have probably noticed, is that lack of pace we've got at centre back, and I think that killed us a couple of times yesterday as well, especially that ball over the top. Porteous couldn't catch up with Signs when he was away. Are you concerned by the lack of pace at the back? Because obviously we brought in Ogbonna as well. He's not going to have the legs to catch up with a young Spanish guy who's run through on goal. Maybe Kevin Caban is the only one with a bit of pace, and he might come into the side, but he's a raw talent who's not that experienced. Are you concerned by the lack of pace we've got in that back three?
Do you know what? I'm going to be a little bit different and say no, I'm not, because I think
we did have a high line as well, which didn't help.
No, it didn't at all, and it was a bit uncharacteristic, I think, of us, because I don't think I've seen us play with such a high line all season, if I'm being honest. So that didn't help. But there's been other defensive pairings and trios and stuff where we've seen there not being much pace, and I think we've coped and we've been all right. I think it's just, I think the high line was the thing that let us down yesterday, and like I say, I just don't understand why they were playing virtually on the halfway line. That ball came over the top for that second goal, and Morris and Pollock were literally, I think one was in Norwich's half and one was just the other side into our half, and then Porteous was the one that was just, I think, coming out the centre circle and then chasing him for all the way from there. And I was like, hang on a second, what's going on, lads? Like, why are we pushing so far forward? Like, we're just about to go into half time. Just keep your positions and hold things. And shame really, wasn't it?
It is a shame, because I see it so many times when teams get into injury time, they don't really move the ball forward much, and you just try and keep the ball because you're protecting what you got until you got half time. You don't really see many goals scored in that added on time in that first half. So it was frustrating to see us lose the ball so easily up the other end of the pitch, when really that throw-in shouldn't have gone forward. It should have gone backwards towards the defenders, played it between the three, even gone back to Jonathan Bond. He hits it over the halfway line. Half-time whistle goes. Watford going 1-1 at Carrow Road. We'll take that all day long, considering the start. But we've played the ball forward. Then Vata's been caught in possession. The high lines cost us. The ball's over top. Porteous can't catch him up, and Signs just has the freedom of Carrow Road to put it into the bottom left-hand corner. And there's so many examples there where we've just thrown it away, and it's down to that game management again. But it's frustrating, and I hope we work on it this week. It's going to be tough for them to work on it. I imagine they probably had a bit of rest today, and then they've worked on maybe set pieces today, travelling to City rest today, work on set pieces tomorrow, travel up to Manchester, stay in a hotel, obviously play the game. Wednesday's going to be a rest game, but they're only going to have probably Thursday, Friday to work on things. So it's a quick turnaround for Watford, but they need to work on these things, because those 2 goals cost us the game yesterday. Afterwards, second half, we had to chase the game a little bit, Joe, didn't we? And that's where maybe the 3rd goal came from, and definitely the 4th goal. The 4th goal, my God, watching that 4th goal, that reminded me of this Watford team last season and a season before, because I felt like they down tools for that 4th goal. I thought their mentality completely went. I thought half of the team couldn't be asked to get back and try and get in the right position to stop the ball from going in. I know I've jumped completely forward from that 2nd goal to the 4th goal, but we've kind of talked about how they've got down that right-hand side of Ryan Andrews for the 3rd goal already. But that 4th goal, were you massively disappointed by, 1, the reaction of the players, and 2, of how similar that is to all the goals from last season?
Yeah, it was really disappointing. You could see, I think there was a little bit of tiredness in there, to be honest. I think they were run ragged a little bit yesterday. I think, I'll be honest, I actually, going into the game, I probably took Norwich a little bit for granted. They hadn't really played very well going into yesterday's game. From things I'd seen last week, they lost at Swansea last week, and I saw they weren't very good, and I thought we might have a chance here, even though we've not done well there of recent games there. But yeah, it was massively disappointing. Just one of those, like, if that goal had been scored and it's like 2-2 and we lose the game 3-2, then I'd kind of be like, that's really shocking, and I'd probably be a lot more angry. But I think the fact that it was 3-1 and I think the game was done, I don't think there was any signs of us really getting back into the game at that point. And I do think that the lads were, quite, as I said, quite tired. It didn't really bother me as much. However, we can't be conceding goals like that moving forward. They do need to tighten things up, and it does need to be better. And just going back to, just jumping back slightly, is one thing that, I think we'd be happy to say that we'd be all right seeing, is whenever we're in those positions at the end of the first half, I know fans moan when the ball's played backwards, but just like you say, in terms of game management, just play the ball backwards in those situations. Just get the ball back to the keeper, just keep possession, get into half time. Because like you say, you could probably go through, I don't know, all 46 games, and you'd probably say that, I'm going to probably say that it wouldn't even get into double figures, the amount of goals that are scored in injury time at the end of that first half. So yeah, it is just all about game management. And I think, it's also experience as well. Like you say, we're playing with a lot of inexperienced players at the moment that haven't really had too many minutes, like Morris and Pollock and people like that. Obviously, I know Dele Bashiru is he's growing, and he's still quite young in my eyes. Like, I wouldn't say he's a complete player. He's still got things to learn. And obviously Vata's young and only got his first start yesterday, and Jebbison got his first start. So there's a lot of inexperience in that side still. So for me, it'll just come and things will improve. But I think we've just got to stick with it, and things will get better as time goes on.
Yeah, no, I think we're giving Tom a lot of patience, aren't we? And we're willfully behind him. So he said yesterday, this is the biggest task challenge that he's had now as Watford manager. It's how they react now off the back of this defeat to Norwich. I'm talking of Norwich. We've got a Norwich fan in here today. The life of Basil the Black Cat. YouTube channel's called. Norwich fan here who was at the game. We could have easily won 6-0, etc. But at the same point, lost 3-2. Wouldn't worry a huge amount on your part. And then Mark Schofield also said it could have been 6-4. And I think it was a bit of one of those games yesterday, Joe, wasn't it? It could have swung either way. I think Watford had their shooting boots on them. They could have challenged Norwich a little bit more. But yeah, it was an entertaining game, wasn't it? It was a good advert for the Championship.
Yeah, 100%. It was a good game, and for the neutral, it would have been enjoyable. I think you're right in terms of the scoreline. I think there was, like I say, I did mention when the game was 1-1, there were a couple of points where we were going forward, and Chad Fakatsi, had he just looked up and not wanted to be the hero yesterday, I think we could have got the ball into better areas and maybe had a couple of chances in the box rather than him snapping at shots outside the box and not really doing much. Obviously, as I said, from the corner, if that goes in, it's 2-1. It's a completely different game, and Norwich are then chasing us, and we're then obviously in control. Who knows what we could have done? We could have gone on maybe and nicked another one before our time and gone in 3-1 at the break. It's one of them. All ifs and buts. It was a good Championship game of football. Like you said, not massively. As the Norwich fan says there, wouldn't worry a huge amount on our part. I'm not worried. It's not. The scores are concerned, and there were, like I say, mistakes. But we're all fully behind Tom. We all want Tom to do well. We're all supportive of Tom and what he's trying to do at the club. And one thing I will say is that I'm going to touch all wood now when I say this, but we're unbeaten at home under Tom, and I fully believe that next week is going to be tough for Sunderland, and I believe we'll give them a good game regardless of their position. We've done all right against them over the past few seasons, and I think Tom will set them up the right way. Obviously, we beat them, didn't we? That was his first win as Watford manager towards the end of last season. They were a bit disappointing then, and obviously they've lost people, but obviously they're a bit of a different team now. It's going to be interesting, isn't it, moving forward? What's your take on Vata as a whole? Do you see that? Do you see him staying there next week, Ben, or do you think he'll look to bring Kwadwo back if he's fit?
It depends if he's fit. I think Vata will probably get minutes at Man City Tuesday. I would like to see more of Vata. I think he's probably got more to offer than Kiembe in the team, as in going forward. Although Kiembe, he's got 3 goals this season, hasn't he? So it'll be hard to keep him out the side. But I would like to see more of Vata. I think he needs to play more with Chak so they've got a better understanding. I thought, like going back to Chak, Vadesky yesterday, I thought he was a bit selfish in times in that first half, especially where he was shooting from outside the box, where he could have easily slipped in to Vata or to Jebbison, and they would have had a better opportunity of actually scoring. But Vata's an exciting prospect, and I don't know if you listened to the press conference after the game yesterday for the interview with Tom Cleverley on the YouTube page of Watford. Tom Cleverley was mentioning about these areas of the pitch where we lost the ball, and he was talking a lot about how we lost the ball after that throw-in, and he didn't mention names, but he was clearly talking about Rocco Vata, saying that these young players need to learn about these mistakes because they can't keep doing it in these areas. And I don't think Tom would have wanted to throw him in against Norwich yesterday if it wasn't for Kiembe's injury, because he's been a bit reluctant to give him much minutes in the Championship. Because you got to think, he wasn't really playing games at Celtic. He was involved off the bench a few times, but only a few times. It wasn't like he had 20 appearances off the bench last season. So he's fairly new to men's football. So I think Tom knows that, and he's trying to gradually introduce him into this team. And I think even Cam asked Tom Cleverley in the fans chat last week about Rocco Vata, and he said he just wants to give him that chance when he knows that he's ready. And I think Tom doesn't want to throw him in completely. So I think it's all depending on if Kiembe's fit. If Kiembe's fit, I think he starts over Rocco Vata. If he isn't, then I think we'll continue to see him play. But I was surprised that Rocco Vata was over on the left yesterday. instead of Chatford. Chak's been playing there all season over on the left-hand side. So I thought we would have kept our best player playing in that position to get the best out of him. And I thought we would have maybe done Vata over on the right. But maybe Chat still had a great game for Watford. He was probably Watford's best player, hands down, with a country mile. So he can probably do a bit on the right and a bit on the left, and maybe that's what Tom's seen in training. But he's an exciting prospect, Rocco Vata, and like he can create things out of nothing, like that drop of a shoulder and where he hit the bar. So I'm excited by him, and like I say, he'll start at Man City, and if Kiembe's not he'll start against Sunderland. But this Sunderland game coming up, Joe, it's massive in terms of how we react and try and get our season back on track. Yes, we're unbeaten under Tom Cleverley at home since he's taken over. Sunderland, okay, they might be top or in the top two, and they had a fantastic win over Middlesbrough, winning 1-0 at the Sunderland of Light, but they have lost their last away game in the Championship to Plymouth Argyle, and that was Plymouth's first win under Wayne Rooney. So they can be vulnerable at the back, and we have to go in and try and not concede as long as possible. Like you said earlier, Joe, there's probably going to be Watford fans with their stopwatch out going 5 minutes and then they'll cheer. But knowing Isla, if Watford fans did that and we cheered, 10 seconds later, we'll probably concede and we'll be 1-0 down after 6 minutes. But it's so important that we react this week. But one other bright spark, maybe from the game, Joe, is Kwadwo Baah. Impressive cameo appearance off the bench, and he looked like he wanted to make things happen for Watford.
Yeah, he always looks good, doesn't he, when he comes on? He looks comfortable in possession. Obviously, he's got quite a lot of experience, isn't he, from being out on loan. He had a good loan spell at Burton, and the Burton fans spoke very highly of him, didn't they, before he came back to Watford. And yeah, I've been nothing but impressed with him since I saw him in pre-season when we went to that Stevenage game. He scored a great goal that day. But yeah, like I say, he's one of those players that I think Tom wants to play him, but I don't think he wants to chuck him in like Vata. I think he wants to just slowly bring him into the side and give him more and more minutes as time goes on. And I do think it's difficult to say. I think maybe come like January, I think we'll be seeing him a lot more. I think he's just going to be like bit part performances and cameo appearances here and there. But I do believe he's a bright prospect, and I'm very excited to see what he can do on the whole when he's fully integrated into the side and he's playing regular minutes for Watford, because I think he's going to score if he's playing properly for us and he's fit. I think he'll score a lot of goals for us, if I'm being honest. And he's probably one of our most exciting talents at the club, I think, in my opinion.
I agree. I think the loan spell for him away from the club just worked absolutely perfectly for him. Okay, he came back injured halfway through the season from Burton last year, but the experience he's picked up has been massive. And like his loan spell away from a club has worked wonders for him. And another example of like pairing him up against someone else who's gone on loan before and not had the same kind of impact when he's returned back to the club after a good loan spell is Joseph Hungbo. He went away, had a good loan spell at Ross County, came back. He had a few substitutes appearances, but he was never really that impact sub or really impactful or actually did much when he came on. But Kwadwo Baah is completely different. Like he's similar to Hungbo, had a good loan spell, but he's came back and he's hit the ground running, and he's a beast. Which Jess has said here, Baah is a beast, and he's changing games. He's making he's already got an assist, and he just looks like he's grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck and he's making things happen. And we didn't see that from Hungbo, and that's probably why he's not at the football club anymore. But this is why it's so important for these young players to go out on loan and that's why we're probably going to see Adi Poku go out on loan, and I think he will. That will benefit him massively as well, because from watching the pre-season games this season, especially Hibernian away, he's someone who wants to take on this man, get to the byline, and he's got the upper body strength as well to shrug a player off here and there. And I think he could be the next one who probably will do as well as Baah, but we just need to nurture him and get him up to speed. But with Baah on Tuesday, Joe, would you look to start him against Manchester City?
Yeah, I think he deserves a chance, and I think
he was linked with Man City before Watford signed him, wasn't he? When he was at Rochdale as well, so it would be a big game for him going back there as well.
Yeah, he was, and I think it's going to be interesting because I don't know if you watched the game today,
no,
any of the City Arsenal game, but you know it was very ill tempered, and there was a lot of challenges flying in and stuff, and obviously you know it was with City's schedule coming up, there was clearly worries that they were going to lose people and stuff, and Arsenal were ruffling a few feathers in that City back line. I think playing Baah, I think he I can imagine him being a bit like Deeney used to be at Watford. You know, Deeney used to say when he used to start games, if he wasn't leaving one in on a defender within the first 5 minutes to let him know he was there, he wasn't doing his job properly. And I actually can envisage that Baah's going to be exactly like that on Tuesday night, given the chance. I think he'll definitely grab the game by, as you said, by the scruff of the neck, and I think he'll look to do things from early doors. And I think he might even. I'm going to stick my neck out and say that he might even score. You know, I think we might even score first on Tuesday. I do think we're going to lose the game. But let's make no mistake. But I do think that if we start strongly, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we're going to have a young team, like you say, and they're going to be very inexperienced. And City are still going to play. They're still going to play some superstars, aren't they? I mean, I know they're struggling a little bit. There was De Bruyne's out injured, so they're struggling a little bit in midfield.
Rodri went off injured as well today, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. He's definitely not going to risk Haaland, is he? So there's some big players there. I think Stones came on today and scored. He only came on with about 5 minutes to go, so Stones will start at the back. So if Baah can go in on Stones and just put him into row Z within the first few minutes, then yeah, that'll be worth the watch. But yeah, I'm really excited for Baah and his future at Watford, and I think it's only going to get stronger and stronger as time goes on with more minutes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do, because it is a prospect, and that he played for Germany under 21s as well, and they've got a decent under 21s as well. So for him to be called up and feature for them is a credit to him. And that was a couple of years ago, wasn't it, that he was playing at that level? So yeah, it's an exciting player we've got on our hands. Just hopefully we can nurture him and show him the right path. We'll wrap up the show just in one bit, but I will leave you with this one, Joe. Us going into Manchester City on Tuesday, we've only got one eligible striker, and that's Kwadwo Baah. Daniel Jebbison played in the Carrow Cup with Bournemouth, so he can't play. There's no one else other than Baah. We've sent Rajovic out on loan. Maybe Baah through the middle, like you've said, leave one on John Stones. But yeah, this squad's very thin at the moment.
Yeah, that's yeah. To be honest, actually, I actually realised that when because I was saying about it, when we were chatting in our chat the other week, I said about Jebbison starting, and Cam said he's cut tied, and I completely forgot that he'd played in that first half in that game, and that was the intention all along, wasn't it? Bournemouth had a plan, and a bit of a shit one that, because I mean we could have got anybody. We hadn't got City at that point, and you'd probably think, if we'd have got, I don't know, just pulling someone out late or in at home, we've got a great chance of going through and progressing. And we could have had a cut run, and being a striker down, it's quite frustrating.
We do have a young lad from Mali, don't we? Dumbia.
Dumbia as well.
he scored for the under-21s against Charlton on Friday, I think it was. So maybe he's another fit striker that we've got. I wouldn't be surprised to see Adeyemo on the bench as well. He scored for the under-21s lately as well.
Yeah, do you know what? If he came out, Tom, and he said, "I'm starting Dembele at the week on Tuesday," I would not be shocked one bit, if I'm being completely honest with you, because it could be that, you know, if he does make that decision, that he's protecting Baah for the league potentially. And, you know, as much as Tom wants to get a result, you never want to lose any game of football. Playing people like that to give them a chance. I mean, from what I saw of him in the games that he's played he's looked lively, he's looked really exciting, and he's another prospect. You know, there is some exciting young talent at this club at the moment. It will be interesting to see who plays in the centre of midfield on Tuesday, I will say, because obviously we don't know whether Loser's fully fit and whether he can start, but whether he plays, I'm going to get this the wrong way around. Him and Ramirez Espan.
Yeah.
I
big game for him to come in, isn't it, in the midfield too? Great way to learn.
People may laugh, but you know, it's a game where I as I said earlier on, if we get to pens and whatever, and we've got a chance, great. We wouldn't expect to get there, but you know, just give these people a chance and see what happens. Like, I'm not going to be, if they lose 5-0, although it's going to be a bit disheartening for them, it is going to be a bit sad to see that, you know, they're probably their heads will drop, and it probably will get tough if he does play them sort of people. You need the experience, and it keeps people fresh for Sunderland next week, because we ain't getting, I know Jess has been commenting and saying we're going to win, blah, 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 but you know, we've got to be realistic. Our record against City in the last 20 years or whatever, we're absolute dog shite against them. I don't usually swear much on this podcast, and I'm sorry, but we are crap. And, you know, if I remember rightly, the only time we were in with a sniff of beating City was that game where we lost 2-1. Do you remember, Ben? The home game where Aguero scored that stunning header, where it went across goal. We were 1-0 up with about 7 minutes left, and we lost 2-1 in the end. And it was like, and from then on, we've just been absolute rubbish against them, haven't we? So, yeah. Give the kids a go, Tom. If you're watching this, I know you're probably not, but if someone puts something out, puts this clip on, just say, yeah, come on, play the kids, give them a chance. Let's give it a go. Dembele to start. Sorry, back in bio.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the team news is when it gets to an hour before kickoff. I'm looking forward to it. I don't tend to look forward to Watford games against Man City, but I'm looking forward to seeing these fringe players be given an opportunity, especially the youngsters as well. See how they can test themselves again, the best in the country, potentially best in the world at times. So it's like, even with Man City playing their fringe players, they're still decent players. To think that John Stones isn't their starting centre back at the moment. He came on 5 minutes ago and scored a winner today. Like, he's going to be playing Tuesday night against Watford, and he played in the final of the Euros not so long ago for England. So the calibre of players that we're up against is just incredible. But yeah, we'll probably wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for watching tonight. Really do appreciate it. Great numbers on our views tonight, and loads of interactions in our comments as well. So really do appreciate it. If you've liked this video, please hit that like button, and mainly hit that subscribe button as well. Mike had a look at the other day and saw a stat that the majority of the people on here that watch aren't even subscribed to the channel. So hit that subscribe button as well, because you will see all our content when it comes up. We have lots of interaction with the club now, where we're involved in these fans chats, so that will be continuing as well. So there'll be lots of content coming up as well. Funny story before I go as well, we was actually meant to be involved with the commercial director this week, but I messed up a little bit. I was away on a family holiday in Disneyland Paris. I had the email from a club saying that we was due to speak to the commercial director at 5:30. Little did I know, because I was in France, it was an hour ahead. So Mike went on at 5:30 English time, waiting for an hour to get into the chat room. Wasn't able to enter because little did I know it was actually 4:30 UK time. So I completely hold my hands up. I messed up. But Mike, to be fair, he was in the email as well, so he should have had a look. He was a little naive, and he just went off what I said. So yeah, I won't be making that mistake again. So yeah, that's why we weren't involved this week. So yeah, funny story for you all to end on today's podcast. But yeah, thank you all for watching. We'll be back soon. I'm not sure if we're doing anything from a Man City game. It depends if we're still crying after the 10-0 defeat. But we might surprise ourselves, might win on penalties. But yeah, thank you for watching tonight. Take care, and we'll see you all soon. Come on, you on.